since I had some momentum near the end of that New Year's resolutions video about my absent father, let me continue. So, he wasn't always like this. There was a point up until my 11th birthday, more or less, where he was a father who took me to fly kites at the garrison. We also used to go down Paynes Bay to fish. I remember him showing me how to make a smut lamp, which is a bottle filled with kerosene oil, and it has newspaper stuffed at the top. You light it and it keeps going once you turn it upside down so the fuel reaches the flame. And I remember those two things. Then he got a job. I'm not sure if the first job was as chief education officer, but his job then became his children because he gave his attention entirely to it. And I don't really remember interacting with him. I remember really awkward car rides to school when he would drop me on his way to work because I did a year at Harrison College. And it was just awful. The silences, his sighs, sometimes like he wanted to say something but just couldn't bring himself to speak. And I didn't facilitate it because we just didn't have a relationship. And our interactions would occur when he was upset about something. So that was it. Him angry, that's when he would speak to me, and when he wanted something done. Yeah. It would be fella bring in the Pampers out the car because my sister uses Pampers, right? And then like people will ask me if what was my father's reaction to finding out that I'm gay. And the truth is, I do not know that he knows. I'm not sure that he has been interested enough in my life or my brother's life to know anything about us outside of what he may overhear. But I've never heard anything about myself, so maybe he hasn't heard anything about me, you know? And there was a point in time when I wanted a father, I think. But then it got to a point where I think, yes, I left home because I used to have arguments with my mother, and there was an argument where because I would feel as though I was being judged based on some blueprint of what they imagined I was and not who I had shown them I was. So, of course, Barbadian authoritarian parenting states that you can't have an opinion, right? You must obey. You can't speak, right? And I remember there would be times when I would just feel like I could not handle the oppressive nature of our relationship, and I would need to get away from it. But that would turn into you can't say nothing to you because you think you was a man. That foolishness, which is handed down for generations back, generations until ways of expressing love didn't exist apparently. And so I moved out. I was living in an apartment, and at this time I think he may have been a part of this men's group, MISA, and I don't even remember what it stands for right now. I never really cared about it. I was never invited to a session. And so it was something that he did, which I got glimpses of it from the papers, and it all sounded very misogynistic to me. But it was also like a men's group. I've been to one of these groups where men sit around and jerk each other off, not literally, but, you know, they tell each other stories about women and that they all relate to, and they feel good together. And it's ironically very homosocial. And I say ironically because there was a point in time when Misa said some foolishness about not allowing gay men into their organization. And I thought to myself, how are they going to stop them? They're going to ask them for their gay ID? Are they going to monitor them all day? Is like surveillance going to be a part of their introduction to the group? Madness, just stupid madness associated with a certain type of man of a certain age in Barbados. And yeah, embarrassing, really. I used to find it well, did I find it necessary? No, I didn't really. I think people knew me well enough to know that I didn't hold the same or nor similar views to my father. Now, so all of that to say that at that point in time he was a part of this group, and so he liked this idea of himself being a mentor. I would always overhear him on the phone mentoring men and giving this parental advice that he never really used on himself. A hypocrite, really. And and so he tried this mentoring thing on me, but after we had like a conversation, you know, he said that he wished that he was there for me more regarding what I was feeling with respect to the cantankerous nature of my mother around this time. But after the conversation, when I let him understand my point of view, which was that we weren't good just because we'd had a conversation. And this is an issue that has come up many times with my parents, with both of them. This feeling that after they have, I want to say apologize, but they've never apologized. They have said things like, "Well, you don't get a manual. You don't so no, but you think that you're doing the right thing, you're doing the best thing you know how," which I don't think is an apology. I think it is an excuse for their behavior. So after our little conversation, I said to him, "Well, we still don't have a relationship. It would be something that we have to build." He went back to who he was. He completely disappeared again because he has always done what is easiest for him and what he likes to do, so that while people outside of the household know him as this person who has done these wonderful things in Barbados, which I'm not even sure what they are, to tell you the truth. It's something related to the credit union, and something, I guess the men associated with this group think that he has done this wonderful thing. Maybe they do benefit in some ways. I'm just saying that I don't know, because I've never really been a part of his life. I know what I know from newspapers when I used to look at the newspaper, but I don't. And so I know very little. And yeah, it's been an interesting ride because now he's at an age where he's obviously losing his mind. Uh, and when I say that, he has mental health issues, mental decline. And I'm the one who's basically taking care of him. So I have to, I've learned a lot about myself, and I'm still learning about what my boundaries are because he's extremely antagonistic. Once he cursed me in a bar, and I will tell you that story just so for context, because I have a theory that he needs to villainize me and my brother to feel good about himself, to feel good about not having been a present father. So it's an interesting thing as well to see that the people who have their parents' best interest at heart, or his best interest at heart, right, are the ones that are treated the worst because they don't tell him what he wants to hear. Somehow along the way, he has managed to surround himself with parasites, people who just want to take advantage of the fact that he seems to like to buy friends. I don't think it's a very conscious thing, but it's what he ends up doing by buying people food and buying people drinks. At one point, he was going to a bar called the Lime and spending $500 the day that he went, and that was obviously people exploiting him, right? But then, so he was allowing somebody, a cousin, to drive him around. But this cousin is notorious for being a thief. And this guy was just robbing him blind, saying that he putting in gas and taking money. My father giving him money to pay other people, and of course he keeping the money for himself. And no matter how much you tell my father, look, this is what's happening, he don't believe it. Because one thing that's beautiful about him is that he sees the good in people, and he wants to believe that that they're not who they really are when they're bad people. He wants to believe that they're good. And so I said, you know what, I'll drive you to the Lime. I'll take on this responsibility. I took him to, there was another bar he was going to. I took him there and said, okay, call me when you're ready. He calls me. When I show up, he's not ready. And I'm like, okay, I got things to do, but I'm like, all right, I have to have a conversation with him. So I walk around for half an hour, come back, he's finally ready. We talk about it. Well, I talk about it, but he's always been very antagonistic when it comes to being confronted with something that he doesn't want. So he was already like, well, it's only 15 minutes, or if I want to drink an extra drink, or that sort of thing, right? I said to him, no, you need to understand I have other things to do, so just call me when you're ready, so that when I come for you, we can just go. So on this other occasion, I go to pick him up, same thing happens, and I said, you remember we had this conversation? Blow up. What are you rascal? You trying to embarrass me in front of my friends? And like he live in a gutter, cussing, stink, had in drinks, which I understood. But one thing that really hurt me about this is the men join in and start to curse me and think, why don't understand what you fuck, you don't left the man, and he did not defend me, right? I know people who would be like, you, nobody can't curse you in here but me, that sort of thing. Not him. So I put the key on the table and I left. Because it was a whole thing where, oh, it's my car that you drive in. So yeah, I don't get into the basa, so I just walk away from it, right? So I walked away from that, and he went back to getting robbed. Now, similarly, for a while, because of mobility issues, he wasn't going to these places. But he's waited till he's 85 to become an alcoholic. And he don't like this word because it's me exaggerating. He's not like drinking every day, but when he goes to these places, he can't have one drink. He gotta have all the drinks, right? And I've spoken to his sister, my aunt. We all got together and talked to him about it because he wants to start back doing this foolishness at his age when he shouldn't really be doing this at all. But I also kind of feel like, at the end of my life, I would like to be able to do what the fuck I feel like doing without people getting on my case about it. So I want him to have this little bit of freedom, but I also don't want him to get robbed. So we decided, okay, there's a certain amount of money that you will have on you. I will pay the taxi man. He can come pick you up and drop you back home, right? So he went on the wrong day, apparently. So the next day now, he ready to go again when the agreement was to let me go once a week. Anyway, I said to him, well, once a week though. You can't tell me what to do. And by this time I was like, yeah, you know what? I done. Like, I can't tie you up and keep you in the house. So it's this complicated situation because for me, really, it's the care of my sister. It's the security of my sister that worries me, right? Because it's something that he never considers because he was that kind of man who he felt that a father is somebody that provides money, which he wasn't doing because my mother was self-sufficient. And so he never lifted a hand. I have no memory of him actually changing my sister or doing anything to care for my sister like that. Nowadays, I mean, his argument might be that, he just sit down with her when she eating to help her eat. But I ain't sure about that no more because he could barely feed himself, but he got a hook hand, right? So he cussed me and I called my aunt and said, listen, this at you now because I am done. Because the problem is he can come home drunk, right? Whoever drive him home can walk him up the stairs, right? Help him walk up the stairs and then they leave. And he can be like, oh, hey, lock the door when you go along. How the locking the door unless they got the key? Yesterday self, I had to run out there to the gate to grab the key out of somebody's hand because they're going along with a key belonging to the house, right?